Venezuela denounces before the United Nations a massive cyber attack against the country as part of a destabilization operation. Russian Commissioner for Human Rights Tatiana Moskalkova called on the United Nations to condemn the terror unleashed by Ukraine with an armed incursion into Kursk province. And Gaza civil defense highlights international condemns following recent Israeli massacre at Al-Taiben school and mosque. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela denounces before the United Nations a massive cyber attack against the country, which is part of a destabilization operation. During the United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime, and Venezuela's alternate ambassador to the United Nations, Joaquin Perez, stated that crimes have been perpetrated through information and communication technologies aimed at meddling in destabilizing and promoting coup d'etats. He further pointed out that these so-called cybercrimes are used in a criminal manner to advance disinformation campaigns. The diplomat also indicated that Venezuela, in addition to its electoral system, has also received cyber attacks against the national electricity system and other strategic sectors, including the oil and gas industry. In Venezuela, the president of the Supreme Court of Justice, Carislia Rodriguez, announced that only 33 of 38 political parties presented the required electoral material.
In accordance with the referred subpoenas, the 38 political parties involved appeared before the court in a timely manner. 33 of them submitted the required electoral material.
In this context, the People's Party of Panama rejected the extreme right against the constitutional government of President Nicolás Maduro. In this sense, through a press release, they affirmed that they will support the will of the Venezuelan people as the absolute majority cast their votes for re-electing President Nicolás Maduro on July 28th. The People's Party of Panama noted the U.S. imperialism used all elements of cognitive and political warfare on the mass media, including social networks, to confuse not only the Venezuelan population but also many people overseas who believed in their version. Furthermore, the far-right opposition did not wait for any bulletins of the National Electoral Council, so acting out as rabid dogs, they claimed fraud in order to stir up a faction of the population by using tricks and bribes, generating chaos as they intend to go back to past Guarimbas uprisings, which has not worked out, but they continue to consider that strategy as suitable. The party further stated they never showed their alleged tally sheets that led them to the alleged triumph, and all after the failed and uncovered coup attempt of Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo González Urrutia, they ran for asylum, proving they were not interested in any electoral result, but in generating chaos and unrest among the Venezuelan population. Thus, they tried to find a pretext for organizations such as the OS, which has had a nefarious performance against all progressive governments, to convene meetings with the intention of condemning the elected government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and isolated from the rest of the nations worldwide. The party asserted, meanwhile, the governments submissive to U.S. imperialism, those still on the colonization ship, did not waste time in condemning the new government and demanding voter recounts as a clear proof of meddling in the internal affairs of a foreign nation. For example, the brand new president of our country, José Raúl Mulino, who now claims to be concerned over Venezuelan migration, when one of his first measures was the siege he imposed on migrants taking the Darien Gap route. The Cuban government denied on Saturday in an official communique the allegations of its involvement in modifying the results of the presidential elections held in the country on July 28th. They stated 4 main points. First, it is absolutely false that specialists in computer science or any other area would have traveled from Cuba to Venezuela with the purpose of modifying the results of the presidential elections in that country. Second, this unfounded and fabricated accusation by the former high Colombian official Francisco Santos is not accompanied by evidence because it does not exist. Third, the promoter of this lie is known for his active participation in misinterpretation campaigns and for his involvement in several political scandals. In December 2021, he invented that the commander of a Colombian armed guerrilla group, Ivan Marquez, would be in Cuba, which was fatally denied by reality. Last, the politically motivated construction of a matrix of lies that attributes to Cuba responsibilities in the results achieved by the contenders in the elections in Venezuela is assumed as a truth by those who traditionally participate in the campaigns of misrepresentations about Cuba. In Colombia, 40 of the 98 military personnel held in the community of San Jose de Guaviare were freed. The kidnapped soldiers belong to the Joint Task Force Omega, which has expressed its concern and urged the release of the soldiers who have been held captive since last Friday. The first medical report indicated that the first released prisoners were in good health, although they were transferred to a battalion for a more exhaustive physical and mental examination. The National Army declared that it is working with the Public Prosecutor's Office to secure the release of the 58 remaining soldiers, at the same time that it holds meetings and security councils in the area to take action on what happened. The president of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, who took office in November, informed on Friday that he will seek re-election for the presidential elections of February 2025 and announced his running vice presidential made candidate. Noboa made the announcement on his candidacy during the convention of his political movement National Democratic Action, 6 days after the beginning of the period set by the National Electoral Council for organizations to internally define their candidacies. They will be able to officially register before the electoral body between September 12 and October 2nd. At the convention, the president announced current official Maria Jose Pinto will accompany him as the vice presidential candidate. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Independence of Judges and Lawyers, Margaret Starrett-Waite, warned of inequalities in access to justice in Chile. On her 2-week visit to the country, the rapporteur alerted to the existence of a justice gap that splits the rich and the poor. Thus, legal services provided depends on citizens' social class, economic means and connections. Likewise, the authority noted that while the wealthy benefit from a system that allows them to expedite their cases to avoid convictions, the underprivileged find themselves embroiled in cumbersome procedures and receive harsher sentences. Satterthwaite underscored that this difference is intertwined with the discrimination that hinders the fair assistance of communities of indigenous peoples, migrants and Afro-descendants. On Saturday, Peruvian justice confirms annulment of former President Alberto Fujimori's indictment for forced sterilizations. A Peruvian court dismissed the legal case against Fujimori, who between 1990 and 2000 ordered the execution of forced sterilizations on nearly 200,000 poor and indigenous women. The decision to dismiss this case came from 1 day after the approval of Law 3210-7, known as the Amnesty Law, which de facto decreased the prescription of war crimes and crimes against humanity committed before June 1, 2002. Experts clarified that the decision does not prohibit the refiling of the indictment, but only annuls the opening order of the investigation of the case and returns it to the filing stage. Russian Commissioner for Human Rights Tatiana Moskalkova today called on the United Nations to condemn the terror unleashed by Ukraine with an armed incursion into Kursk province. Moskalkova assured that thousands of civilians have been affected by the brutal attack of the Ukrainian armed forces on the Kursk province and assured she expects this information to be included in the upcoming report of the United Nations Human Rights Office. Recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Kyiv of launching a large-scale provocation and indiscriminate shelling, particularly against civilian facilities. On Wednesday, Russian forces halted an offensive by up to 1,000 Ukrainian servicemen to occupy territories in Kursk province. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, ordered to strengthen gathering troops on the border with Ukraine in response to the lately Kyiv attempt to attack. The government underscored that Kyiv is worsening the crisis in the region, therefore no provocation will go unanswered. Because of what happened, special operations ground and missile forces, including Polonez multiple rocket launcher systems and Iskander complexes, were sent to designated areas to prevent any possible attack. 2 days ago, a group of drones launched from Ukraine reportedly crossed the border with Belarus, so the country's air defense systems brought them down. Tensions between Russia and Ukraine continue to escalate. On Sunday, the interim government of the Russian Kursk region confirmed at least 13 wounded, while the Ukrainian authorities reported 2 dead in Kyiv. In this regard, Governor Alexei Smirnov explained that 13 people were wounded as a result of the fall of the Ukrainian missile in a residential area. At least 2 of those wounded are in serious conditions. The attack, described by Smirnov as a terrorist advance, also caused a fire which has already been extinguished by the firefighting units which formed the 12 emergency teams which attended the situation. Regional authorities in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, confirmed 2 deaths after a Russian attack without giving any details. The government of Serbia received information from Russia about preparations for a coup d'etat in the country. President Alexander Vučić released the information, noting Russia alerted him to the preparations for riots and a potential coup d'etat. The head of state pointed out that those fantasizing about doing something by force will not reach their common dreams. Serbia is moving forward tirelessly and will never be stopped, he concluded. Currently, the Security Information Agency, main intelligence entity of the Republic, is working with the information provided by Russia. Previously, the police reportedly arrested 4 masterminds who were planning to generate violence and riots in Belgrade. In Niger, the Civil Protection Directorate reported that at least 94 people have died due to severe floods caused by the rainy season that started 2 months ago in the African country. The agency reported that there are at least 135,156 people affected, representing approximately 17,000 households in the Difa, Maradi, and Zinder regions. As a result, thousands of homes have been destroyed, while authorities are expressing concern about the outbreak of a humanitarian crisis because crops have also been severely affected. The meteorological agencies warn about a new wave of storms that would be arriving during the course of the week and urge the population to be vigilant in a spirit of solidarity and collective responsibility. In Sudan, torrential rains affected more than 70,000 citizens who have been forced to leave their homes in the last few days. In this context, approximately 73,000 people have been victims of the climatic disaster that has hit 18 states in the region amid the armed conflict that is being waged in this African country. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs estimated that the number of people affected is 73,183, while the number of displaced people exceeds 21,000. In this regard, authorities managed to confirm the death of 53 people as a consequence of the rains and floods, warning that during the next few days the amount of rainfall could increase, recommending the population to seek shelter in higher places. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasting and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Sunday, the Israeli government renewed ban on Al Mayadeen media network, including the seizure of its equipment and blockade of its websites. The measure was enforced after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with the Knesset, approved the proposal of the head of communications, Shlomo Karai. Earlier, Israeli authorities had labeled Al Mayadeen as a threat to the security of Israel and described its journalists as terrorists. The occupier regime went against the network that it has been covering since the Al-Aqsa flood until nowadays, not only the Israeli genocide in Gaza, but also Israeli attacks on the West Bank and occupied Al-Quds. Therefore, reporters from Al Mayadeen had been persecuted and even killed, as the media network supports Lebanese Hezbollah and the Hamas Palestinian resistance movement. After the Israeli decision became known, the Pan-Arab News Network Al Mayadeen reported in a communique. The decision of the Israeli government and its president evidences the structural choice of the Israeli occupation in confronting the press. The Israeli occupation reveals its hostile face towards free professional media committed to human issues. Al Mayadeen will not submit to blackmail or pressure, no matter the size or scope of its influence. The media calls on free Arabs and the world to express their rejection of the systematic and ongoing policies of the Israeli occupation against the press. In Palestine, the Ministry of Health has confirmed that nearly 500 health personnel have been killed and hundreds more injured since the start of the Israeli assault on Gaza in October last year. In a statement, the ministry detailed that more than 310 people have been arrested and 130 ambulances have been destroyed by Israeli occupation forces in Gaza. Health centers and their staff in the West Bank have suffered more than 340 Israeli attacks during the same period. The ministry noted that deliberate attacks by Israeli occupation forces on medical infrastructure have severely hampered citizens' access to essential health services. The worsening conditions related to water and sanitation have led to an increase in preventable diseases and premature deaths. Israeli occupation forces carried out a series of arrests in the West Bank on Saturday night and Sundays early this morning, detaining 16 Palestinians, including former prisoners. The Palestinian Commission for Detainees and Former Detainees Affairs and the Palestinian Prisoner Society said the arrests took place in several governorates, including Jerusalem, Hebron, Jenin, Qalqija, and Nablus. The raids involved violence and intimidation as the detainees and their families were subjected to threats and their homes were severely damaged. Since the beginning of the Israeli offensive in the Gaza Strip on October 7, 2023, more than 10,000 Palestinians have been detained in the West Bank, including Jerusalem. According to the Civil Defense of Gaza, there were several international condemns after the recent Israeli massacre at the Al-Taiben school and mosque. 100 people were killed in the massacre, among them 17 women and children. The Palestinian presidency asserted that the U.S. administration bears responsibility because of the military, financial and political support given to the occupiers. The spokesman Nabil Abu Rudeine stressed in a statement that the U.S. administration must end the blind support that has left thousands of children, women and senior citizens dead. Some of the governments that pronounced themselves against this unfortunate event were Cuba, Venezuela and Russia. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held a meeting in Istanbul with the sons of recently assassinated Hamas leaders Ismail Haniyeh. During the meeting, the Turkish head of state expressed to Abdel Salam and Haman Haniyeh his condolences for the death of their father on July 31st. The meeting was also attended by the head of the Turkish intelligence organization and the chief advisor to the president. Haniyeh, whose assassination has not been acknowledged by Israel, was in Tehran to attend the inauguration ceremony of the new Iranian president Masoud Pezeshkian when he was assassinated. This Sunday, after 16 days of a sporting and highly competitive atmosphere, the Paris 2024 Olympic Games come to an end. To ensure the security of the closing ceremony, the French government will deploy about 2,000 staff in an operation especially designed for the ceremony, which will take place at the Stade de France. The organizers of the event assure that it will be a ceremony with a technological display never seen before, with the aim of taking the attendees on a journey through time and reflecting on the importance of the Olympics. The ceremony will take place from 21 hours local time at the Stade de France, with capacity for 80,000 attendees. Let's have a look at the updated medal ranking of the Olympic Games in Paris. China leads with 40 gold and a total of 91 medals. United States is in second place with 38 gold and a total of 125 medals. And Japan is in third place with 20 gold out of 45 in total. As far as Latin America and the Caribbean countries, Brazil continues leading in the 20th spot with 3 gold and 20 medals in total. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.